Good morning, welcome to another daily update. It's Thursday the 19th of March. Loads to discuss today. Remember to leave comments and engage with some of the stuff we're going to be looking at. So yesterday, the moment that so many had been waiting for, the government finally moved on the issue of schools. Schools in England are closed today, and then schools in Northern Ireland are closing at the end of this week. But it really goes to show the complexity of this current crisis. On one hand, schools closing is a great thing because it means less chance for the virus to spread. But as schools close, new problems then arise. What do we do about children of NHS workers? What do we do about kids who are relying on school meals? What do we do about children who are maybe victims of abuse in their homes? I mean, this whole thing is just a can of worms. As soon as one problem is addressed, 3 or 4 more problems just seem to crop up. So the regulations are still being drawn up. Ideas are still being formed about how to solve these new problems as well. One thing I noticed about yesterday's developments, though, was the lack of unity across the board. This is really the first time that the individual nations have been divided. So instead of kind of waiting for Boris and the Education Secretary to announce plans for the entirety of the UK, we had Wales and Scotland first making their own move, then Northern Ireland joined in and did their own thing as well. And I felt like the whole thing was just a bit unclear. We had journalists reporting that schools in NI would be closed today, and then a couple of hours later, the same people correcting that, saying schools would be closed from Monday. And I must say, personally, I just didn't like the way this was handled. There was a lack of unity, and as a result, there was a lack of clarity. We saw journalism at its worst, not caring about the truth and simply racing to be the first one to break the story. And that only leads to inaccurate news and confusion. Bring back the good old days, maybe, of televised news broadcasts at 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Maybe you disagree with that. Maybe you like having constant contact and trying to decipher for yourself what's true and what's not true. You can leave a comment below with your thoughts on that one. Moving on, what we're seeing in all of this is how people respond differently. We've seen that there's a tendency for mankind to kind of go in one of 2 directions, either selfishness or kindness. Supermarkets are running low on stocks because people are hoarding things for themselves. I heard one man on BBC Radio 5 Live declaring that he would not be sharing with his neighbours if it came to it. He was looking out only for himself, and he wasn't apologising for that at all. This only goes to emphasise the wickedness that lies within all of us. We all have parts of us that think in those terms. We all have selfishness and greed inside of us, just clamouring to get out. And the Bible really calls that sin that entangles our hearts, torments our souls, and it's this sin that keeps us away from God. But thankfully, we've also seen many acts of kindness, the other response, the goodness that lies within all of us as well. Individuals and communities rallying to support those who are most vulnerable. For example, we saw Bob and Bert's Cafe. They posted yesterday to say that they'll be helping to solve the problem of children who need free school meals. We saw Sky Sports pundit Gary Neville saying he'd be opening up his hotel in Manchester to NHS staff who needed somewhere to stay. I heard locally about a school in Carrick that had opened its hall in some way to allow people to come in and out and get supplies that they had in abundance. And the list kind of goes on and on. I came across a really interesting website, randall.ie. I'll post a link below. It's essentially a map of the UK and Ireland, and it shows people on the map who are willing to help their local neighbours. And you can also go on and request help on it, and someone will respond. So there's loads of kindness, loads of support and love being spread throughout the UK. And in one sense, we have an opportunity to grow closer in all of this. This crisis, as awful as it is creating an opportunity for us to be kind and to look out for others where we can. And this is something the Bible continually calls us to. In the book of Philippians in the New Testament, Paul encourages the church to be kind. He says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others." And then he puts forward Jesus as the ultimate example of this. He writes, "Have the same mindset as Jesus Christ, who being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. Folks, remember that today. Jesus has done so much for us. We have been shown such a high level of kindness and grace and love and forgiveness by our God that we ought to respond in kind. And the Bible calls us to live that out. So today's challenge is to look out for ways to be kind, to serve one another, to help someone, and to look out for the interests of others beyond ourselves. And as ever, until next time, stay safe and God bless.